right now on Full Force Nature. A violent tornado races across the Oklahoma plains and takes everything in its path. High mountain winds wreak havoc with a helicopter, tearing a heroic rescue to pieces. Floods in New Zealand threaten a herd of cattle and call for an unusual roundup. Hot desert winds fan a firestorm in Southern California, destroying homes and sending fire crews on the run. And a severe thunderstorm in Florida causes a blimp to make an unscheduled landing. Extreme weather told by the people who survived. Right now on Full Force Nature. Weather is a natural force that we can only try to predict. When severe weather strikes, our world can be turned upside down. An autumn storm spawns a vicious tornado just outside of Elk City, Oklahoma.
National Weather Service in Norman have issued a tornado warning for Southeast Roger Mills County.
Storm chaser Reed Timmer and his crew already know that tornado warnings are in full effect for the area.
You could tell it's going to be a huge day. There are already storms developing fairly early in the morning, and there are tornado warnings.
Repeating, the National Weather Service in Norman have issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Roger Mills County in western Oklahoma.
Once Timmer spots formations in the darkening skies, the chase is on.
There it comes, a little needle funnel.
They pursue the strengthening tornado supercell, heading northeast toward Elk City.
We could see the storms developing in the distance, and the storms looked incredible again. You know, they looked like atomic blasts. And it had a huge wall cloud on it when we got up to it near Elk City, and the tornado sirens are already going off.
In the downtown area, residents quickly take shelter. Donna McRee and others rush to the cellar of the Carnegie Library. In moments, the threat to the downtown area is gone.
We thought it's done, it's over with. Let's go back to work.
Donna is safe, but what she doesn't realize is that the tornado is about to touch her life. Meanwhile, Timmer speeds down dirt roads to get a closer look. The rapidly forming twister is just in front of them.
Then we drove north, and then immediately a tornado came down.
Holy shit! Agree with that. We went across the road.
An enlarging cone spins out of control.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Initially, it was over open terrain. It didn't hit any structures, any trees or anything, but we could tell it was a powerful tornado. You could see dust getting lofted into the air. And at one point, it went over a reservoir. You could see like the white water getting sucked up.
But soon, luck runs out, and the twister tears apart a house.
Wow, holy shit, that's a house. Oh my God. Oh no.
The tornado hits a sprawling ranch home, sending debris high into the air.
The house is gone.
The storm chasers race toward the destruction to help any victims.
Hello! Is anybody in there?
Back in Elk City, Donna McRee has returned to work when she learns something that changes her life.
One of the residents from Canute came to town to look for me and said, you know, you've got to come home. I didn't even think about the tornado. I thought, you know, my husband had been in an accident.
Fortunately, no one was at the McRee residence when the twister struck, but their home is in ruins.
I never dreamed that everything I owned was gone. It always happens to somebody else. It doesn't happen to you. You know, it's just, you never think of it happening to you.
The intensity of Elk City's F3 tornado ripped Donna McRee's world apart in seconds.
You know, it was gone. Everything was gone. I just could not believe that that's where I left this morning, you know, with my bathrooms clean. It just wasn't possible. It just doesn't happen to you.
The McRees are thankful to have the chance to rebuild, but will always remember how their life was changed by the full force of nature. There are times when severe weather comes upon us, but all we can see are the tragic results. From Portland, Oregon, Mount Hood jumps from the horizon like a giant white dagger. Snow-capped year-round, it's a playground that beckons the adventurous spirit of the Northwest. But warm spring temperatures have caused the thick snow to crack open, leaving dangerous fissures.
We heard that there was a incident on Mount Hood with some climbers that had fallen into a large crevice.
Carl Peterson covers news for a local television station from his state-of-the-art helicopter. He was sent to cover a dramatic rescue of mountain climbers on 11,000-foot Mount Hood. 9 climbers have slid into a crevasse. 3 are dead, and another 3 critically injured. Rescue helicopters are called in to pull them off the mountain.
The helicopters were hovering over top of the crevice, and they were lowering a gurney to bring up the survivors.
With the camera controls in hand, Peterson zeroes in on the action. The rescue helicopter hovers near the climbers, making its 3rd rescue of the day.
We were a mile away from the side of the mountain when we shot this. They were right up along the edge, so when you're right up along the edge of a mountain, you don't have any latitude for error.
Peterson notices when things start to take a turn for the worse.
And I'm watching the helicopter, and it just starts, I could detect there was something wrong. It was just floundering a little bit, kind of acting a little strange. There was something not right about that helicopter.
Without warning, the winds suddenly change and throw the rescue helicopter out of control. It slams into the mountain, sending debris flying high into the thin mountain air.
Next thing you know, I can't believe my eyes. The blades are hitting the side of the mountain. Chunks of helicopter blade are just flying all over the place, and the helicopter starts to roll down the mountain.
The rescue helicopter tumbles 1,000 feet down the steep mountain. After what seems an eternity, the chopper comes to rest, upside down like a wounded bird.
I'm watching it, I'm following it as it goes down the mountain, and I'm hoping that nobody's getting killed. I mean, I expected the worst, and thank God everybody survived and everybody came out okay.
Unbelievably, the crew survives with only 1 seriously injured. For those involved in the rescue, it remains a lasting example of how the full force of nature nearly made this tragedy even worse. Coming up, dry desert winds in Southern California fan a firestorm that surrounds rescuers in an inferno. But first, a drastic flood in New Zealand calls for an unconventional rescue for cattle caught in the rising waters. When we come back with Full Force Nature. Welcome back to Full Force Nature. Rain and snowfall normally mean welcome nourishment to farmlands, but sometimes it can become too much of a good thing. Heavy rainfalls cause flooding along the Waikato River, New Zealand's longest. Ranch lands south of Auckland are quickly submerged. 60 cattle are trapped on an embankment just beyond the rapid currents. Knowing the waters will continue to rise, desperate ranchers call on Newton Grace for an unusual rescue.
They're going to try and swim the cattle across the river. Across this river? Across the river. There's a farmer in trouble that needed help, and apparently there was cattle stranded on an island that needed to get back to the mainland, and the best way that he could think of was to get the jet skis involved.
In the distance, a team of jet ski cowboys, led by Grace, buzz onto the scene.
Just keep up, guys.
But for these cowboys, it's no easy day at the ranch. Spooked by the rescue effort, the cattle circle and run the wrong way. Knee-deep in the floodwaters, ranchers try to wrangle them back to higher ground. Younger calves struggle in the rushing waters and are given a ride on the floating barge. Finally, as motorboats tow a single cow, the others follow suit. Plunging into chilly waters, it's either sink or swim. The cowboys split up to round up the stragglers. One animal struggles unsuccessfully against the current, and the river flood takes a victim. Another motorboat continues the effort, reaching the shore with an exhausted bull. On shore, Newton Grace evaluates the rescue.
They know that there's higher ground over here, and they know that they need to get across here, but as you can see, the current is very fast and it's preventing that from happening.
But the cowboys prevail. By dusk, the herd is safely to the other side and out of reach of the high waters. Coming up on Full Force Nature, thunderstorms in Florida force a blimp back to the ground. But first, a firestorm in California grows out of control when fanned by desert winds. You're watching Full Force Nature. Southern California is a place where high desert mountains reach up towards sunny blue skies. But when the conditions are right, this parched environment becomes a flashpoint for uncontrollable firestorms.
We had a sustained drought period. Our vegetation was near death. There was no relative humidity. We had the Santa Ana winds surfacing, which even dropped the humidities even lower.
Santa Ana winds are strong, hot, dry winds that descend from the high desert onto the Southern California basin.
Santa Ana winds, we can have gusts sustained 50 miles an hour.
When a small fire in the Angeles National Forest ignites, the winds quickly feed the flames. Rich Cowgill is a photographer who works with local fire departments.
When the Santa Anas hit this fire and they blow it up in such large size so quickly, the way that it spreads is through its embers just blowing ahead of itself.
Smoke from what has been named the Williams Fire looms high over the Southern California landscape. The midday sun is choked, making it seem as if night has fallen.
When that fire hits, it can be in the middle of the day, and there's so much smoke and soot in the air that it literally looks like nighttime out there. And that's what happened here on the Williams Fire.
The firestorm is out of control.
A firestorm is basically when the fire creates its own weather pattern. And it starts getting into a swirling motion, and it starts to feed on itself.
With the winds blowing hard, firefighters know they can't stop the blaze. They instead try to protect homes.
The efforts of the firefighters were really heroic, but unfortunately, Mother Nature had just taken control of the whole situation.
And these swirls of hot gases that were burning were all around us as well. And this firestorm was going to engulf anything in its path.
Well, they're here to help you, man.
Some residents refuse to leave, deciding to fight the fire themselves. But it's a futile battle.
Dude, your life ain't worth it, man. Come on, let's go. That's right, come on.
Even firefighters are helpless to save the homes, and now can only try to save lives.
So we felt like things were going to change and get worse, but we didn't realize it was going to happen as quickly as it did. When this fire came around and was behind me as well as in front of me, my main concern was just getting out of there as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, the one road out was covered with fires. Luckily, I was able to hook up with this Burbank-led strike team with Chief Pancini and get with them.
The fire crews retreat from the inferno in the canyons, but the winds have pushed the fire ahead of them, cutting off their escape. They're surrounded by a hellish landscape.
the embers were falling like raindrops all around us and being deposited.
The crews find a ranger station nearby, built to withstand this exact scenario.
There was a U.S. Forest Service fire station that was up there. It was basically a fire residence. It was built with non-combustible block walls surrounding it, so it had some heat deflection.
The crews are forced to take refuge and wait out the fire. Soon, the fire's fuel is burnt, and the crews get out safely. And the one-time ally of the flames now helps to bring the fire down.
As the fire decided to progress, the weather drastically changed, and we had a cold front that pushed through, and that put more relative humidity into the air, and that allowed us to put firefighters in there now to totally control the fire and totally put it out. It's ironic that Mother Nature, which helped to start this fire and to move this fire to the huge fire that it became, also played a huge part in allowing us to stop the fire threat.
In the end, 76 structures are destroyed by the Williams fire, and over 37,000 acres charred.
Some people ask us if wildland fire behavior is a natural phenomenon, and I believe that it is. They're caused by Mother Nature, and they're going to continue to go on.
In just a moment, wind, rain, lightning, and downdrafts spell trouble for a blimp flying north of Miami when Full Force Nature returns. Welcome back to Full Force Nature. Severe thunderstorms are a common sight in southern Florida, but during a summer storm, calls pour into the Coral Springs Fire Department. Residents report an unusual addition to their lightning-streaked skies.
We start getting calls a little bit after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Residents concerned, they're saying that the Goodyear blimp is flying real low in the area of Coral Springs. They realized that the aircraft was pitched upward. The nose was up in the air and the tail was down on the ground.
The department sends trucks out to investigate the situation.
When our units get out here, they discover that the blimp is actually flying pretty low, and the storm that is coming in is apparently keeping him low to the ground.
Approximately 12 miles away from its air park, the blimp is trapped within the storm.
We often have very severe thunderstorms here in South Florida. The weather was very stormy, overcast, a lot of lightning storms, a lot of thunderstorms in the area. From what we understand, the pilot was in the Pompano Air Park area and decided to come out west here when the storm came through. I believe he probably tried to outrun the storm that was coming his way. But if the aircraft only flies 10 to 15 knots and the storm was coming in at 20, there's really nowhere for him to go.
The heavy rain, downdrafts, and lightning rob the blimp of directional control. Unable to climb, the airship hovers dangerously above a local neighborhood.
I thought it was going to hit the house. It was in bad shape. It sounded like a train coming over.
Worst case scenario at this point is for this aircraft to come down in a residential neighborhood. Well, a lot of people see the Goodyear blimp and they think it's floating. How heavy could it possibly be? But the fact that the aircraft is 6 tons, if you think about it, that's several vehicles. That's very heavy. If you think about dropping a car on top of a house, it's going to do some damage.
Luckily, the pilot manages to guide the airship away from homes and toward a nearby industrial park, where rescue units are standing by.
We've been watching the aircraft for some time. When it finally comes down, our units are already here. The things that they're thinking of in their mind, how many people are on board? Could this land on a facility that has chemicals inside that may react with the chemicals that are inside the aircraft? The gases that are actually inside the blimp are not themselves flammable. However, if mixed with other types of gases or other hazardous materials on the ground, we don't know what that reaction can be.
After the pilot struggles for nearly an hour, the blimp finally crash lands on an empty storage complex. Still, the situation is extremely dangerous.
As the aircraft came into the building, it did strike high-tension power lines.
Rescue units immediately call out to the pilot, while other team members assess the electrical hazard.
When they made voice contact with the pilot and asked them, is everything okay, is everybody okay inside of there, the first thing they heard is, we're okay, we're okay. Our chief officers did a 360 of the area to make sure that there wasn't, in fact, any electrical hazard.
With the passenger safely evacuated, attention turns to the collapsed aircraft.
There was some obvious damage to the aircraft. The skin had been torn, causing the aircraft to deflate. It's almost sad to see this humongous aircraft in such disarray and down on the ground and not in its glory that it usually is.
Though the blimp and storage area suffer considerable damage, a larger tragedy has been avoided.
When we respond in a situation of this magnitude and we're able to see the pilot or anyone inside the aircraft walk away, it's the best type of call you can have.
That's all for this edition. Tune in next time for even more amazing encounters with weather on Full Force Nature. To be sure that you're prepared for the full force of nature, your local forecast is next, right here on the Weather Channel.